Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Glow Glow podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Quinn, and join me today is Chris Nugent. It's been a while, Chris. Good to have you back on.
Thank you, Kyle. Yep, has indeed. Looking forward to get chatting again. Another good wee result tonight. So all good.
Yeah, perfect timing. It's always good to have a win to talk about rather than a defeat, so you're probably glad that you weren't on last weekend.
Absolutely.
So this weekend it was a 2-1 win at Goodison Park, which certainly isn't guaranteed. We've struggled at Goodison quite a few times, but tonight we got the result, and deservedly so. I think we should have been 3 or 4 1 up at half time. In the second half, we seemingly got a third goal, and it was bizarrely ruled out for an accidental handball. And then we were hanging on at the end of Pickford coming up for several corners. Should never have got to that stage. I mean, we should have won the game quite comfortably. But overall, I'm really pleased with the 3 points tonight. So, what was your thoughts on the game, Chris?
Yeah, I thought we played well, to be honest, Kyle. Generally, yep. The one thing that I was always annoyed about last season and seasons before was lack of intensity, but didn't see that at all tonight. Really high tempo from both teams, to be fair. Game was really fast, really quick, played at a good pace. Everybody putting in 100% effort. Yep, you can still see there's wee small cracks, and bits of communication and things not quite 100%. But to me, it looks like progress. So yep, good result. I think it was a pretty good game.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Martial pulled up after about 29 minutes and had to go off. But as it happens, Ronaldo replaced him, and Ronaldo picked the perfect night to score his 700th club goal. Fantastic finish. It was almost like a rolling back to the Real Madrid days of Casemiro winning the ball back in the center of the pitch, then playing a lovely ball to Ronaldo, who runs onto it and then smashes it into the net with his left foot. I thought Ronaldo played really well overall. He was working a lot hard. He was working very hard. He was coming back and winning the ball back for United. He was competing in the air, and I thought he had a. I thought Rashford wasn't at times just wasn't working hard enough, but Ronaldo and Anthony certainly were. Yeah, so I was really impressed with Ronaldo's performance, and not just the goals. So, what did you make of him?
Yeah, I thought he played well. Yeah, like you say, kind of thought he was doing as much as he could. I mean, he doesn't have the legs that he used to have. Obviously, he's 37. He's not going to be busting the gut all day, every day. But I thought, yep, he did really well. He worked really hard. He was getting the good positions. He was laying the ball off nicely, nice wee 1-2s and bits of link up play. And it did seem inevitable that he was probably going to score. There's one point in the first half, I think he kind of took too much time with the ball, and I thought, I was a bit frustrated, or I think he got caught offside. But yeah, bar that, I thought he was good. I thought the team overall was pretty good.
Yeah, I loved the occasions where Everton were playing the ball back to their centre backs, and he would just nip in behind them and win the ball back, and then would be on the counter. Um, yeah, and he competes in the air. There's no one else really in our team who does that. It gives the opportunity for De Gea to launch it long, and he wins flick ons, and it creates chances for us. So yeah, I thought he had a really good game. Something not someone I was expecting to see much of tonight, but as it happens, he won us the game and got his 700th career goal. And BT gave Casemiro man of the match. I thought he was pretty decent tonight. He did a lot of things well. He won us the ball back on a number of occasions. And then he obviously lovely assist for Ronaldo. He's also very combative as you'd expect, but there was a few mistakes in his game as well. He gave the ball away a couple of times, so I don't think it was a perfect night for Casemiro. So I wouldn't have given him man of the match. I probably would have given it to Ronaldo or Martinez or someone like that. So what did you think of that man of the match selection by BT Sport?
Yeah, it surprised me too, to be honest, Kyle. Whenever they announced it, at the end of the game, I was like, it kind of came out of the blue. I was like, Casemiro, right? Didn't really see that coming. But I thought it was interesting. Yeah, he was a fault for the goal, 100%, and then he made up for it with a brilliant interception, and then a really good pass to Ronaldo for Ronaldo's goal. So I guess you could say he wiped his own slate clean in that sense. But I thought it was interesting, the commentary whenever they described why he got man of the match, that he was just making everything tick. And I think that maybe describes him, in a way. He can go unnoticed simply because he's not bursting forward, he's not doing the nice things as such. But a player like that who is breaking up play is kind of what we've been needing for how many years. We've been talking about needing a centre midfielder, and it sounds like maybe we finally got that person who's actually going to do that. Like you said, I think there's still mistakes in this game. Not so much mistakes, but more. I think he definitely hasn't quite adjusted the tempo of the Premier League yet. Zero time in the ball. and at times I think you could see that he was caught slightly, just kind of dilly dallying a little bit. But I think obviously he's only come in. I think that might even be his first start. So I mean, he's going to take a while to adjust. But I think his performance was very good. And like I say, I think he's doing things that maybe go unnoticed, when you're watching the games, because he does the wee small things. But obviously very important. And again, I have to give the credit to Ten Hag for that, because we've been talking for so long about we need that player that's going to let everybody else around him play, and it sounds like maybe Casemiro's the man to do that.
Yeah, he actually gave the ball away just before he won the ball back and played the assist for
He
Ronaldo.
did. Yeah,
Um,
saw that.
I also think the ball that he lost that led to Everton's goal, I think Anthony played it to him when he was under pressure. I don't think Anthony made the right decision there by playing the ball to Casemiro. You don't play the ball to someone who's marked. That's not a good idea. So I would actually, I would share the blame for that goal. Yeah, but yeah, I thought United absolutely dominated the first half. 2-1 was, or was it 2-1 at halftime? Yeah, I don't think that was a reflection of the game that we watched. As soon as Everton scored, United just were absolutely all over them, and we just didn't take our chances. Casemiro actually had a chance, a free header from a Rashford cross, if you remember. He should have put
Do.
that away.
Yeah, he should have
Um,
done. He should have done. I think he'd be
and
kicking himself about that.
And Rashford's goal, I just don't understand the refereeing. I seen highlights of the West Ham game earlier on, and there was something similar in that game where the ball bounced up and burst the elbow of a West Ham player, who then went on and scored, and the goal was given. It's the inconsistency of these officials that drives me nuts. It really, really does. What do you think?
I think it drives everybody mental, Kyle, 100%. And, VAR, I've been saying this time and time again, I'm going to continue to say it. There's absolutely nothing wrong with VAR. What's wrong is the people watching the videos in the VAR room and the referees making decisions based on VAR. I can't understand it. Okay, fair enough. Like you said, yep, it bounces up and you can clearly see that it does kind of hit his hand or towards that area. But I've seen the same thing so many other times, like you just talked about the West Ham game, and the decision goes the opposite direction. So, it's just, I can't understand it. I mean, the point of VAR is that the referees can see what we can see watching the TV. They can see exactly what happens in slow motion. So they've got all the information, but yet even with all that information, they're still inconsistent in their decision making. And that's the problem for me. So exactly what you said.
Yeah, well, we could talk about it all night, but it's not something I want to focus on because then we won the game. But it could have cost us the game because we really were hanging on at the end. It was just corner after corner after corner for Everton and Pickford coming up. De Gea made a crucial interception at the end there. I think one of Everton's midfielders, was it Onana or something? I think he was going to bury one into the far corner, but De Gea managed to get there first and tip it over the bar. And
Really
one
good
of the
save.
corners, I think Varane got in a crucial interception with his head. I think Pickford was going to score. Only Varane got a flick on. I got flicked it over him. Yeah, so that substitution where Ten Hag brought on Varane for Anthony ended up winning the game as well. So yeah,
Good performance again there from Ten Hag. Yep.
Yeah, and he said, Ten Hag said that the reason why Casemiro was starting tonight because he felt that he was up to speed with his fitness, and he's had enough time with him on the training ground to instruct Casemiro to do what he wants. So he thought that this was the perfect night to bring him in, and I think it worked. And we know that Casemiro is a quality player, and certainly compared to McTominay, he's miles better. So from now on, we want to see Casemiro being in the midfield ahead of McTominay.
Well,
I
I
want to see
believe McTominay. I think McTominay's got a ban there, so you've got your wish very quickly, Kat. I think
That's
McTominay's
right,
got a
yeah.
ban,
The five
so
yellow cards already.
it's worked out quite well. Casemiro hopefully get a wee run now because there'll be no other option, which is good. Hopefully he'd stay in the team.
Yeah, I thought that 4 game sequence where we won 4 games in a row. I think McTominay was decent, but when you pay 70 million euros for a midfielder from Real Madrid, uh, for me he walks you into the team. We know that McTominay is going to let us down at some point, and he did in the City game. He was just totally destroyed by Man City's midfield. So
He's just too rash,
yeah.
and he done it again tonight. He's too eager to put the boot in, and that's the thing. He's got himself a ban here. I mean, even if he was as good as Casemiro is, which he isn't, we would now have lost him because he's got a ban because he can't, he just can't help himself doing silly things, and that kind of, that sort of, kind of sums him up. But I mean, like you said, can you buy somebody for 70 million from Real Madrid that won 5 Champions Leagues? They clearly know a little bit about the playing in centre midfield. So yeah, it's an absolute no brainer that he goes into the team, like a no brainer.
Yeah, I want McTominay's role to be what he did tonight, coming on to help us see out the game and win headers in the box and get himself a yellow. And I don't want to see McTominay starting games, and certainly not big games. So yeah,
Definitely not.
Casemiro obviously going to play against Newcastle now because there's not really many other options, which is great. Yeah, I was really impressed with Anthony again tonight. That's 3 Premier League starts and 3 goals. Lovely finish. Martial getting the assist. Nice ball there before he went off. And Anthony works so hard as well. I noticed it's easy to notice Rashford just kind of walking around. He's kind of taking over the Pogba role almost. Rashford at times when the other team has the ball. Whereas Anthony he's a more intense player. He's closing people down, trying to block crosses, trying to win the ball back. Yeah, so I've been very impressed with him so far. Yeah, he's been worth every penny of the £85 million.
100%, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, he's been brilliant. I think he's been great.
Yeah, fantastic. And Ericsson and Fernandez did a good job tonight in midfield. It's great to have two creative players in our midfield three, and then you've got your combative player in Casemiro. I think that's the type of midfield I want to see, not a midfield of Bruno, McTominay, and Fred. There's just a real lack of quality there, and you don't have an out and out number six. Whereas this is more balanced, in my opinion, what we have at the moment.
Totally agree with Kyle. I'll agree with every word there that you said. Yeah, no, it's finally seems to be coming together. And again, you got to give credit to Ten Hag and whoever scouted those players, and that includes Anthony as well. That just, I feel like that just the balance is starting to finally kind of come together now. And starting to feel more like a kind of a blended team. Even down to the fact that, I know we'll talk about other players later on in the show, but even the likes of Luke Shaw, Luke Shaw didn't do very much tonight, in my opinion. He did bugger all, but at the same time, he didn't get exposed in anything wrong. And I think that's down to the players around him. That the blend is starting to come together now, where players' weaknesses are being able to be made up for by other players' strengths, and that's what a team should be. More than the sum of its parts. And I feel like finally we're starting to head in that direction, where where there's enough blend in the team that players don't have to be perfect all the time. Like you see with other teams, talk a lot recently. Trent Alexander-Arnold's getting a lot of criticism because he's not great at defending. He's been getting away with it for years. They won Champions Leagues with him there, and the reason for that is because they had other players around him who was able to cover for him in that sense. And now we're seeing that he's getting exposed, and that just shows you the importance of having that blend. And I feel like we're finally starting to get a little bit of that blend. So it's great. It's really good to see.
Yeah, I thought Luke Shaw was excellent in the second half. Sometimes he can look a bit casual, but I thought uh, he was working really hard in the second half. I even noticed him like when he got forward and we lost the ball, he was sprinting back, and he was I've seen a lot of where he's like shoulder tackling people, and he's very strong, isn't he? When he's great at kind of nudging people off the ball. Um, yeah, I thought he was getting forward, playing some nice 1-2s and getting balls into the box, some nice touches as well. Yeah, I thought he was okay in the first half, but I thought Luke Shaw was excellent. I think he definitely improved a lot in the second half. And Martinez again, not only is he a brilliant defender for someone who's 5'9", but he's brilliant on the ball as well. He's brilliant at carrying the ball out of defence and playing a forward pass. And I think we haven't really had a centre back who can do that for quite a long time. So it's great to see, isn't it?
He's absolutely brilliant. He's outstanding. I honestly think it's absolutely ridiculous, the criticism that he got, and he's 5'9" and all this here. I mean, at the end of the day, gone are the days when every team in the Premier League, plays long ball football, and like Everton did at the end of the game, and you just have to have big, massive 6'4" centre backs. Those days are gone. Nearly every team plays more continental style ball on the ground, actually plays nice football. And Martinez is absolutely brilliant at that. So yeah, I mean, I think the criticism is ridiculous, and I think people who have criticized him should be feeling a wee bit silly at this point. Honestly think he's a top quality player, and even regardless. I mean, 5'9" is not short anyway. Maybe the average height in the Premier League it might be, but it's not short in general. And I would say that even at that, he's got a massive leap on him because he's so aggressive and athletic that I doubt there's a player who play against him. Maybe Holland or somebody, but not too many to play against him and say, I feel like I was able to just bully him off the ball. I don't think that's going to happen with Martinez. I think he's outstanding, to be honest.
Yeah, could turn out to be our best signing of this summer. Yeah, he's the only player that Ten Hag managed to bring from Ajax. No, Anthony, of course, and for a long time that was the case. When obviously Anthony was signed at the end of the window. Yeah, I never would have thought like 10 years ago we would see like a Mascherano type centre back in the Premier League. You know, he used to play centre back for Barcelona. I didn't think we'd see that in the Premier League, but that shows you how the game has moved on. You know, when the Guardiolas of this world come over to the Premier League, then
Exactly.
you start to have an influence on it.
Exactly.
Um,
Like I say, those days of long ball football and the massive centre forwards are kind of gone. That's not really. It does happen, but it's not the general trend anymore.
Although Everton were trying that at the end of the game by bringing on Calvert-Lewin and they had several tall players in the middle waiting for the long balls in, but that's why Ten Hag brought on McTominay and Varane to defend those long balls because he knows that we're not a particularly tall team. Yeah, so I think Eriksen's probably been our player of the season so far. Just such a tidy footballer. Has great vision and great passing range. And today probably wasn't a standout game by his standards, but I thought he was good tonight as well. What do you think?
Yeah, like you say, I agree, Kyle. I don't think it tonight was his best game. A couple of wee bits and bobs that he could have done a wee bit better. But generally, yeah, he's just such a tidy player. It's the wee things that he does that I love. It's how he's amazing at creating space for himself. I love the way he takes the ball and he's always aware of who's around him, and he's always able to just give himself even half a yard, which will just be enough to take the ball away from somebody putting pressure on him. And get a pass off. He never looks like he's going to get caught in possession. Even though there's a bad ball to him, you feel like he just has that wee bit of guile to kind of create that bit of space for himself. Yeah, he's just a top class player. Yeah, I think he's definitely been one of our best signings. Yeah, I think he's great.
Yeah, he's essentially playing the role that was designated for De Jong. He's playing in that kind of deep line creative role. The only downside of Ericsson so far is the fact that he's played almost every game, and we know he's obviously he's 30 and he's had health issues, so and he tends to get knackered towards the end of games. So I just a bit concerned about running him into the ground. I didn't think that he would start in the Europa League games, but I think he started every one of them as well. I think Ten Hag needs to give him a rest at some point, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he probably does. Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously, if you ask Ericsson, do you want to rest? He'd probably say no because, like most footballers, he just wants to play every minute of every game. But yeah, I think he will have to get a rest at some stage. I mean, I'm sure Ten Hag will know that himself, and he'll kind of know when is the time to rest him. Although, unfortunately, every game seems like a must win. But I think at the minute we're going reasonably well in the Europa League. I think maybe he will get a rest eventually. At some point in that campaign, and maybe get a rest for some of the kind of the cup games or whatever as well. But yeah, no, I think you're right. But you can easily see why he does play every game because he is so good. And I think you make a really good point, Kyle, there that he's probably kind of playing that De Jong role that De Jong would have and should have played if we had got that deal over the line, which we obviously didn't. But yeah, I know he's just a tidy player. And it's hard to leave him out of the team. But yeah, I guess eventually he'll have to get a wee bit of time to rest.
Well, De Jong was a man of his word. He said he wanted to stay at Barcelona, and exactly what he done. Whereas Casemiro, as soon he was given the opportunity to come to United, it was done just like that. So we should be chasing players that want to come to Old Trafford, not players who are not interested.
Couldn't agree
Um,
with you more. Couldn't agree with you more.
So I'm just having a look on Twitter here, and it's the kind of Stratford Paddock or echoing exactly what I was saying about the inconsistency of the referees. They posted a video of the West Ham goal today where there's an accidental handball, and they say this was today. The inconsistencies with VAR are a disgrace, and Henry Winter has been talking about it too. He says VAR is not the problem; it's the inconsistent application by the officials that's the problem. Rashford's handball far less of one than Gabriel's. So yeah, just reiterates what we were saying. It just drives me mad. So Brush here in the comments, just pick up guys. Rashford was really unlucky with that decision. Sorry, especially seeing as the Yeah, he's talking about the West Ham player, I can't pronounce that name. The Samaka one
Skamaka or
was
Skamaka.
given in the West Ham game. Rashford showed good composure. Yeah, and as soon as that goal was disallowed, I immediately thought of the what happened in the West Ham game, and it just drives me nuts. But and that could have cost us 3 points because Everton could have scored at the end. So yeah, thankfully it didn't. But just it just infuriates me, to be honest with you. Um, so Cristiano Ronaldo, 700 goals. Obviously, in the summer, we kind of fell out with him a wee bit because he wanted to leave the club for his own reasons. But it's the usual kind of thing in football where it comes to fans are so fickle. As good as your last game, he scores a winning goal against Everton. Nobody's even talking about that anymore. And I have to admit, given that Martial's injury woes, he's almost like Michael Owen now, with all these constant hamstring injuries and stuff. There's no way United can let go of Ronaldo in January unless they're prepared to spend big money on replacement, which they aren't going to do, given who the owners are. So we have to hang on to Ronaldo to the end of the season because if Martial is going to keep getting injured every time he comes back for like he's 2 games in from his comeback and he's injured again, and this keeps happening, there's no way we can let go of Ronaldo in January because we need him, and tonight kind of proved that, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm gonna slightly disagree with you with the first part of what you said, in the sense of, for me, I feel like United, it should be a privilege for a player to play for United, and I really do feel like Ronaldo disrespected the club during the summer. And for me, if he left tomorrow, from a club and loyalty perspective, that wouldn't bother me in the slightest. For me, I feel like he's lost some respect. But in terms of football and from a professional perspective, you're absolutely right, Kyle. It would be mental for us to get rid of him right now, because Martial has got injured again, and now we absolutely need him. And the one thing I'll give to Ronaldo, no matter about loyalty or anything like that, he is a consummate professional. And even if that's only for his own reasons and he cares nothing about the shirt he's wearing, but only for himself, he will always give 100%, and he will want to score goals and win games purely for himself and his own records and reputation and whatever else. So I think that it would be mad to let him go. For me, the person who deserves the most credit for how that's all handled has been Ten Hag, because I think that he knows Ronaldo wants to go. He knows that Ronaldo could have been a really toxic influence in the dressing room because of the fact that he wants to go. And I think that he has managed somehow to drop Ronaldo in a lot of games, not start him, but yet keep him happy enough and motivated enough. And I know, again, Ronaldo does that on his own, but to keep him on side enough that he's not disrupting the rest of the dressing room, and that when he does come on, he's doing what he did today and he's still getting his goals. So for me, I think Ten Hag deserves the bulk of the credit. But you're absolutely right in what you said there. We can't let him go now in January, even though I would love to say he wants out, he needs to go, but you can't cut off your nose to spite your face. And yeah, tonight has proven how important he still is. I'm hoping at the end of the season that's not the case anymore, and that he's not. We don't need him to stay, but for now, I think we definitely do. I think you're right.
Yeah, he needs to be replaced in the summer because we can see that he's deteriorating physically. But yeah, I'm not saying that what happened in the summer doesn't matter anymore. I'm just saying that the nature of football is that things move on when a player scores goals. I'm just saying that you know I'm not as angry as I was back in July or anything like that. I'm not, especially when he just scored the winner in a crucial game, and I'm not pissed off with him at this moment. But
Oh yeah, and I totally agree. I totally agree. I guess for me, it's just a case of, once you do that, I United, I just think that, yeah, that level of disrespect is hard to then ever kind of forgive, in a sense. But yeah, but maybe that's just me.
yeah, well, I don't think you're alone on that. I think when it's all said and done, maybe some fans, when they look back on it, will still be annoyed about what he did in the summer. But I think when he retires, he'd be still be remembered fondly. Overall for what he's done at the club, what he's done in his career.
Oh, 100%,
So
100%.
the competition with Messi to score the most club goals is not over, because I think Messi's on 691, so he's still only 9 goals behind. So Ronaldo has to keep scoring to win that particular duel. Yeah. So uh, last week he wasn't even brought on at all. Ten Hag said he didn't want to. He thought Ronaldo it would have been an insult to Ronaldo's career to bring him onto that game, whatever he meant by that. And it looked as if Ronaldo's not even going to come on in a derby when we've made 5 subs. It looked like it was the end for him. But then 7 days later, he's going the winner at Goodison. Things can change very quickly in football.
No,
And he wasn't
absolutely,
even
yeah.
down to start in this game, but he ended up having a massive impact on it. Yeah, so it was. And to be honest with you, I don't even care who scores. I'm just delighted that we won the game and had a decent performance.
Always,
Doesn't
the
really matter to
results
me.
always the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah, if Everton had a scored a late equaliser, it just would have been, it would have been crushing really, and I wouldn't even been in the mood to do this podcast, to be quite honest.
Yeah, it would have
But
been
yeah,
hard to take, like very, very hard to take.
it's like a defeat, when you can see right at the end of a game. Yeah, it was very nervous, and then just when I thought we'd put the game to bed, the referee robbed us. Yeah, so frustrating. So I'm just going to move on to the player ratings now. So David De Gea made a crucial interception at the end, so it'll be a 6 for me. Dallo, I go with a 6. Lindelof, a 6 will be generous, so I'm not usually quite kind to Lindelof, but since we won the game. Martinez, definitely a 7. Luke Shaw, 7. Casemiro, 7. Ericsson, 7. Bruno, 7. Marcus Rashford, probably a 6. Anthony, a 7. Martial, I'll give him a 6 for the assist. And Ronaldo would probably get a 7 as well. And not many other players, like McTominay and Varane came on, only played a few minutes, so not enough to give them a rating. So, do you go along with all that then?
Yeah, I think are fairly fair, Kyle. Yep, I thought you were. I thought your sevens were going to be eights, but that's neither here nor there. Same thing. Yeah, exactly. No, I agree. They're pretty much generally all around fairly solid performances. Few people probably didn't quite put in the same shift that others did. For me, I was a wee bit disappointed with Dallo, to be honest. I still think he is defensively quite weak. Again, I think that Ten Hag has done a good job in kind of covering that up slightly in the way that we're playing, but I still think for me, is a real weakness on that right hand side. I think eventually we'll definitely have to replace him. I would hope that by now he would have been much stronger, but he still makes mistakes and does silly things. But yeah, apart from that, I think I would agree with all your assessments. I thought Rashford was okay. I know you were very disappointed with him. I thought he was all right. Again, one thing I would say is that I've seen games where he's run more, tackled more, and tried to do more, but I've got more frustrated with him in those games because he was doing too much and he was doing the wrong things. And at least tonight, he looked like he was being a wee bit more economical, shall we say, and even his endeavour for the goal that was ruled out, that I think probably was very unlucky to be ruled out, was all about him making a good run, battling hard, pushing through. I mean, I'd love to see goals like that. It just shows that somebody is just absolutely 100% determined to put the ball in the back of the net, no matter what's in front of them. So I thought he was. I thought he was good in some ways, and his ball for Casemiro, the one that Casemiro should have scored, was absolutely top class. So I think he was a wee bit unlucky in some ways to not get a goal and an assist, which maybe we would have been talking about him and saying, "Oh, he had a great game. He got a goal and he got an assist." So yeah, but apart from that, I would agree with all your assessment. But yeah, I think maybe Rashford, you were a wee bit harsh, but yeah, again, just a personal opinion.
I think he was good in moments. Like you touched on there, is the time he had the ball in the back of the net, and obviously the ball he played in the Casemiro, but he's just not working. He's not working anywhere near as hard as what Anthony was doing in the game. And there's times where I wanted to see him take on Seamus Coleman a lot more. Seamus Coleman is 33, nearly 34. Rashford should have the beating of someone like him. And he was just when he receives the ball, and as soon as like an extra man comes over to mark him, when he's double marked, he just passes the ball back. He doesn't try and. I think when he wants, I see him take them on, and he created an opportunity by doing that. He just wasn't doing enough. Just playing it, keeping it safe too often. I hate to see wingers passing the ball back. I want to see them take on the fullback and cross it in. Don't you?
No, I definitely do, 100%. I do wonder though sometimes if that's a tactic though by Ten Hag, because again, I've been more frustrated when Rashford does too much and loses it, knocks the ball out of play, or so. As I know exactly what you mean, and that used to be our problem in the past and under Van Gaal, certain observations, was way too many side and backways passes and far too much safety. And we did that for a lot under Solskjaer, and that really frustrated me. So I don't want to see more of that. But I guess there are certain times when that is the right approach. But I know what you mean, Kyle. No, I think it's difficult to say because, like you're talking about, I guess we want to see Rashford being dynamic, pushing forward and taking players on at the right times, not doing it too much, not doing it too little. And I guess that's maybe he hasn't quite got that balance. I think in the past he was doing it too much and it was silly. And maybe now he's not really doing it enough. So maybe he'll find the happy medium eventually. So I know I see where you're coming from. But yeah, I think there is a balance there. And again, in a way, this is what we've always talked about with Rashford is that we found his decision making was always what frustrated us. And maybe that's what we're still talking about in a sense is that previously his decision making was to take a ball on when he shouldn't have done. That was poor. And now you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, is that he's passing the ball back when you want to see him taking it. Again, that's a decision that he's making that maybe isn't quite right. So I think maybe he still has a bit of a way to go. But coming back to, I know I'm praising Ten Hag a lot, but coaching that Ten Hag will give him will hopefully improve his decision making, because that's what Dutch footballers are known for, aren't they? They're tidy footballers, they're technical, they make the right decisions at the right times, and maybe he'll get there. But no, I agree with you. Yeah, he still can be quite frustrating. There's no two ways about that.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't know Exhibit, the American rapper, was a United fan. But he
I saw
says
that.
here, 3 days ago there was some
Good
streamer
man.
that argued that with my comment that Martial will get injured again if he starts. Let's keep him as a super sub, so small chance of injury. And they said Martial will not get injured, and he has done. Yeah, it's becoming a bit of a worry now. He's a player who Ten Hag, praise him again, has installed a lot of confidence in him. He had a brilliant pre-season, and any time he's appeared this season, he's had an impact. He's scored goals, he's got assists. The problem is he hasn't appeared in that many games because of injury, and I think that's the third time since pre-season that he's got injured. So it's really frustrating considering that he's rejuvenated, but yet he can't stay fit. It's very annoying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really, really frustrating. Yeah, I mean, he started off really well this season, like you said. Kylie's had a bit of a kind of a revival under Ten Hag, and he's shown a lot of promise, starting to get a lot of praise. I mean, we no United fan has ever said that Martial's a bad footballer. We've always said he's an absolutely brilliant footballer, but he just can't seem to be consistent enough. He can't stay fit for long enough. He doesn't put the application in. And it really looked like he turned a bit of a corner this year. He kind of came out a little bit out of the blue because we just thought his career at United was kind of done and dusted and it was kind of over. So it's really frustrating that he's got injured again. I mean, all I can hope is he walked off, and I don't know if you were watching on BT, but it showed the camera picked him up coming in up the stairs, I think, heading towards the changing room, and he was still walking, slowly, but he didn't look like he had a horrendous, long term injury. So I'm hoping it's just something small and. That he'd only be out for a few weeks and he'll be back again. So hopefully it's not going to be a massive, massive setback. But yeah, we need him to stay fit, and and if he can just get consistency and get that confidence in his football and in himself physically, hopefully he can be a big player for us this season because he's definitely starting to look like he actually could be.
Yeah, and in the past when we've been critical of Martial and Rashford, uh, it's not that we think they're bad players. I just think both of them got so much more to give than what they were producing. And just Rashford tonight, I just think he didn't produce what he's capable of. I know he was good in moments, but that was it really. Just not working hard enough off the ball. I mean, if I was watching as a teammate, I was watching how hard Anthony and Ronaldo were working. That would inspire me to do the same. But he just was kind of just jogging around for long spells of the game when Everton were in possession. I don't understand that. So, what did you make of the celebration from Ronaldo? He appeared to be like meditating, and then Anthony kind of joined in. It was a bit unusual, wasn't it? But I think some people found it amusing.
I don't know what he was doing. Yeah, I kept looking for Casemiro because Casemiro played the ball to him, and then they were talking about the whole Madrid thing, and it was almost like at one point I thought, is he waiting on Casemiro to come? As if like, yeah, thanks for your congratulations, but I'm waiting on the guy who played me the pass to come. I'm waiting, and waiting. It took him a while to arrive, so I don't know if it was that. That's kind of when I looked at it, what I thought, but it was I don't know what he was doing. Yeah, I don't know. I think. I think sometimes Ronaldo likes to look like he's cool, you know. It's as if like, you know, I've scored a goal, but you know, I've scored bigger goals in my career, so you know, it's just another kind of a goal, and I kind of play it kind of cool. I don't know. Sometimes I think there's a wee bit of that goes on, but yeah, it was a bit of bit of an odd one. But I don't care what way he celebrates. If he keeps scoring goals, he can celebrate whatever way he wants, in my opinion.
Yeah, yeah. He can do any celebration in the world. It wouldn't. He can do what he wants when he scores. Yeah, it's the same with any player. Um,
Exactly. As long as he scores, I don't care what he does straight afterwards.
yeah, and Alex Shaw from ESPN agrees with what I was saying earlier. He says that Varane header absolutely stopped a certain Pickford goal. You know, uh, yeah, it was a crucial interception. We just got his forehead on it and tipped it over Pickford's head to stop him from scoring. We didn't want to be sitting here talking about a goalkeeping goal against us right at the end of the game. But yeah, and Varane, that was his first touch. I think he came on for Anthony, just before that, as when we were defending the corner. So Ten Hag got it right once again, and didn't do a Ten Hag rating. I think Ten Hag definitely gets an 8 out of 10 tonight for me.
Maybe even a 9, maybe even a 9. But sure, we'll split the difference.
Yeah, and one thing that I love from managers is when they're barking out instructions on the touchline from minute 1 to minute 90. Kicking every ball, as the cliche goes. In the past we've seen Solskjaer sitting crossing his legs, watching the monitor up in the dugout. We've seen Van Gaal sitting writing the whole time. Very uninspiring. I know Mourinho is similar to Ten Hag in that respect, where he's always mostly on the touchline and barking at players. I want to see a manager get involved in the game, like Guardiola does and Klopp does. You want to see. It's more inspiring, isn't it, when a manager is and like Conte is another one. When a manager's very intense on the touchline, it's what I prefer to see, than someone just sitting in the stands, watching a monitor or writing things down.
Yeah, no, definitely, no, 100%. I mean, as a fan, like it just looks like they're more involved and stuff. But what I always say is, it doesn't matter what we think; it's what the players think. And I think that actually, it's probably more inspiring for the players too to see that, and it keeps them on their toes, and that's the most important thing of all. So yeah, I totally agree, Kyle. I think you'd rather see that than see somebody who's just sitting making notes and sitting with their feet up watching a monitor. Totally agree.
Yeah, and he's a very hands-on coach on the training ground. I don't think we've had that since Van Gaal, trainer coach, where you know the last few Mourinho and Solskjaer and Ranić were kind of managers, that just kind of observe and then make the team selections, where their coaches take the sessions, where Ten Hag takes the sessions himself. Yeah, and I always prefer that, to be honest with you. I want a manager who's also a coach, rather than him giving, delegating the responsibility to other people around him. So yeah, that's really good to see as well.
Yeah, it
And he's
always
got
seems it always seems like a good thing. Yeah. Although that said, Ferguson, for probably, I would say, most of the good the successful years, wasn't necessarily just doing all the coaching. So I do think that you can have, it doesn't need to be just all the one way. But yeah, I totally agree. You'd much rather somebody who's hands on, definitely.
Yeah, well, Alex Ferguson's a different beast altogether. He can do whatever he wants. But what he did great was he kept changing the number two, and modernizing. Bringing in Carlos Queiroz, for example, was
Definitely,
modernization really. Um,
definitely.
and someone who worked under Ferguson during the travel years is part of the coaching staff at the minute now.
I know. I know. I'd always kind of, I know, when I first heard that one, I thought it was a strange one. Steve McLaren, what? But you see him now, and you kind of go, yeah, do you know what? It's all right. It seems to work, like, and he was there during the Fergie years, and he did pretty well. And then you see him and Ten Hag seem to work great together. So yeah, it's kind of nice to see him in the dugout, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag wanted um, his regular assistant Mitchell van der Gaag with him, and then he wanted someone associated with United, and he knows Ten Hag from their time together at FC 20, where I think McLaren was the manager and Ten Hag was his assistant. Was it 13 years ago or something? And they won the Eredivisie together there. So yeah, I don't think McLaren is quite as senior as he was under Fergie, but I think he's more of a number three now, really. But I don't really mind who was part of the coaching setup. Ten Hag, I just think it was important for Ten Hag to get whoever he wanted. That was
Exactly.
you don't want to. I hated this kind of It's been the odd time where it's jobs for the boys at United. Ex players getting jobs in the boardroom, and like Fletcher, for example, and you know Ryan Giggs being Van Gaal's assistant, and Solskjaer had Carrick, and it just seemed to be a whole lot of you know ex players getting roles, and we don't. I don't know this for certain, but it felt almost at times that the new manager was having these ex players forced on him. We have to have someone from the past and part of your coaching setup, because that's the way we do things here. But
As a PR stunt, to be honest. That's all it looked like to me. A lot of the time, it was a PR stunt. It was something to, whenever things were going bad, they kind of remind fans of the good times, and kind of give them hope that the good times were about to return. Yeah, we could talk all day long, Kyle, about the things that were done at board level at Man United the last few years, and all the problems. And I think you're right. I think you're right to point out that was another one of the problems. But Steve McLaren, there's no two ways about it, has pretty good coaching credentials. He's been England manager. He's managed FC20. He's been at Man United. I don't even know where else he's been. He's had a really, really top level career in a few countries across Europe. So you can't argue with his credentials. And like you said, it's nice that he has a sort of that kind of history with the club as well, which is the ideal scenario, in my opinion. I've talked in the podcast before, and we had some differences of opinion at times, and I said that I would always rather have, if you've got two equal coaches or managers, that you could pick from. If one has history United and the other one doesn't, well, I would always go with the one that's got the history of United over the other one, simply because it's always a nice bonus to have that. But they have to have the credentials to start with. And too many times in the past, we picked players and all they had was the history. They didn't have the credentials, or sorry, coaches. But yeah, certainly with McLaren, he's got both. He's got the credentials and he's got the history. So it's win-win, in my opinion.
yeah, I think, like I say, it's just crucial that the manager picks his own assistants. And McLaren, while he's had a very mixed career as a manager, as a number two, I think he's been outstanding. So I wasn't disagreeing with that selection. So Frank Lampard was very magnanimous after the game. He says, on Ronaldo scoring 700 goals, he says, outstanding. He's one of the greatest players that has graced the game, with Messi, both incredible players. I wanted him to score the other night when he came on. Sometimes those things happen. I give him huge credit. He is amazing. Yeah, I just I think what he meant there was he wanted Ronaldo to get that 700th goal in the Europa League rather than it happening against Everton.
Yes, of course.
But but I think, yeah, I'd much rather he done it in a crucial Premier League game rather than the Europa League. Really is boring, isn't it? Especially the group that we have. It's very uninspiring, isn't it? Playing against teams from Moldova and Cyprus that, although we've made hard work of those games, but it's not exactly the Champions League, is it? Where you're playing against Milan and Bayern and Barca and Madrid. You're playing against just fodder, really, and
Yeah.
I know Sociedad was a bit more of a test, and the problem in the Europa League is that we're going to have to go to San Sebastian and win by 2 clear goals. Otherwise, we're going to be second in the group, and that means an extra round against a team that drops out of the Europa League. That's the format now. If you top your group, you go straight into the last 16. You finish second, you play a Champions League dropout in the round of 32. So we might have blown our chance to win the group by losing that game at Old Trafford against Real Sociedad.
We definitely
Um,
want to avoid that. I think you're right. I mean, at the end of the day, you want to play. You don't want to play more games in a season. You want to play less games. So you definitely don't want to play an extra game. Yeah, I mean, the Europa League. Look, at the end of the day, I think we all know what the Europa League is. It's the second string, obviously. I mean, we hadn't won it a few years ago, and then we won under Mourinho. And that year, I was happy we won it because it was nice to add that to the trophy cabinet. But really, in reality, you don't want to be adding more UEFA Cups or Europa Leagues as they are. You want to have Champions Leagues, European Cups. So yeah, I mean, it's never going to fill fans with the same level of enthusiasm as the Champions League games do. But I guess it's where we're at this season, and I always want to win every competition that we're in, and we're in the Europa League. I guess I want us to make the most of it and try and go and win the Europa League, and that would be a successful campaign. But yeah, really in reality, all you want to do is get back to Champions League, and hopefully, maybe next season 3-1 means or another, whether it's our finishing top four in the league or by winning the Europa League. Hopefully next season we'll be back in the Champions League. That's the aim, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to win a cup this season if possible. The Europa League is probably the best one to win because it guarantees you a spot in the Champions League.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
and we're currently sitting in fifth position. So if that's how we finish at the end of the season, then winning the Europa League would be massive.
100%,
Um,
absolutely.
it just the fifth is okay at the moment. Chelsea, Spurs, City, and Arsenal above us. Um, if we can put a run together, we can get ourselves into the top four before the World Cup. But the big concern for me is that goal difference. We're still sitting on -2 there, and that is because we've had two thrashings, one by City and one by Brentford. We need to when we have we can have an off day against City because they're so good, but we need to avoid these. We don't want to get slapped around by anybody else. Apart from City, um, and because when we lose so badly, we're sitting on a minus goal difference. Even though we're fifth on the table and on a minus goal difference, the only people that should have a minus goal difference is people 12th and below. No, not someone sitting in fifth position. But that's because when we ship goals,
Yeah.
and it gets ugly.
Like that pretty much sums it up. You couldn't put it any other way. Like, yeah, we're winning games by a goal or two, but when we get beat, we're getting absolutely destroyed, and that's exactly what that is. Yeah, you've just described it exactly how it is, Kyle. But yeah, I mean, I hope, yeah, you can only hope that we've learned some lessons from these absolute trouncings, and that maybe we're not gonna let them happen any throughout the rest of the season, but. Yeah, against City, you can kind of forgive it a wee bit because they're just a bit ridiculous, really.
Yeah, great team, and obviously now they've got probably the best striker in the world, bar none. He just seems like he's going to rip up all the goal scoring records. Um,
Completely, completely.
I think somebody joked earlier saying Ronaldo's got his 700th club goal. Holland will beat that by the end of the season.
Oh, yeah, it's it's laughable, but flipping act. The guy is just insane. Like he's just a lean, mean goal machine. Yeah, I shouldn't say that on a Man United podcast because we don't want to be bigging up City players. But come on, we're all football fans. At the end of the day, you got to recognize talent when it's in front of you. To give something a little bit of doubt though, which I think I might have said maybe in a text message to you or somebody earlier, Kyle. I'm going to give a little bit of spark for Man United fans is that interesting thing for me about Holland again, and we're not here to talk about City players, is that uh, City don't normally play with an out and out striker like that who they're relying on for all their goals. Not that they're relying on necessarily, but it'd be interesting to me to see come the end of the season if City have for having him in the team if their actual number of goals scored is way 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 higher than it has been in previous seasons, or if it just becomes more focused with the same number of goals or roughly the same number of goals, but Haaland getting a much bigger percentage of the team's goals than other players would have got. So I just think that'll be interesting to see is how much has he improved City. On the face of it, he himself is just phenomenal, really mean goal scoring machine. But he could be sweeping up all the goals that maybe other players would have got across the team. So I'm not saying that he won't do that and that they won't score way more goals with him in the team. But I just think it'd be an interesting point to see is it just that their style of play has changed and he's taken the goals they would have previously got from other players. But yeah, who knows?
Well,
Who knows? But he's
even
phenomenal.
against United, Phil Foden got a hat trick as well.
Well,
Yeah,
that's totally true. Absolutely, yeah.
yesterday I think they had four different goal scorers. I think he got the last one. So yeah, the other players are still contributing massively. And Cancelo, what a player he is. He's almost wasted at left back. He's just a creative force.
Yeah, they're brilliant. But again, trying to give United fans hope at the end of the day.
Yeah. So Newcastle next weekend. I know we've got Omana again in the Europa League at home. You think we'd walk that no matter who we play. So Newcastle, it's good to be at home again. Newcastle just below us in the league by a point. They've had 3 wins, 5 draws, and a loss so far. So they've only lost one game. So I imagine that's not going to be easy. But we're at home. We expect to get the 3 points here. So if the players that are playing well at the minute, they continue to do that, then hopefully we'll win that game because we want to start building a bit of momentum after the thrashing away to City. we want to win a few games in a row. Although that's going to be difficult because we play Newcastle, then midweek is Tottenham, and then that weekend is Chelsea. So if we get 9 points there, we're doing massively well.
Yeah, they're going to be tough games. Very, very tough games. Yeah. Interesting to see how they pan out.
Yeah. So after all the talk of Man City being unbelievable and scoring all these goals, Arsenal are top of the league still. That's almost been forgotten about. But nobody really expects Arsenal to keep up with Man City throughout the season. But we the last thing we want is this to turn into the Bundesliga, where the same team wins the league every year. And with City being so good and having Haaland now, there's a danger of that. And just hoping that Guardiola's not going to stay there forever. I just hope there's a drop off when he leaves. They can't possibly replace him with someone better or someone equal. It doesn't. There's not. I don't at the minute. I can't see anyone out there who's going to come in and do as well as he has done, domestically anyway. Um, Once Guardiola leaves, hopefully even with Holland, there'll be a drop off from City. That's what I'm banking on anyway to give
I
us a
think
chance to win the league.
Yeah, well, I think there will be, but at the end of the day, Kyle, I remember what Ten Hag said, when he first came in, and I think a journalist asked him, Klopp and Guardiola, and there you go, you look at Liverpool, Klopp and Guardiola are so dominant, the last few years in the league, and they're great managers, and they're eulogizing about how great they were. Do you think that you can displace those managers? And Ten Hag just said, yeah, I don't see why not. And I absolutely agree with that. At the end of the day, we're still Manchester United. We were the team that you're talking about. We were the boring team that was dominating the league throughout the 90s, 2000s, winning league after league after league. And other people probably said the same, but I loved to see it. It was great. So I think Ten Hag, I wouldn't take anything away from him. I think that he's got the credentials, he's got the tactical nous, he's got the ability and the knowledge. To build teams that are just as good as Guardiola's teams. But it's just going to take more time. He's only come in, he's only in a few months. But yeah, I don't see why. I would love nothing more than to see the kind of rivalry that Liverpool and City have had the last few years with United, to be in that mix as well and be that team that's pushing them, and right to the last day. So yeah, I would, as much as you're right, I would love to see Guardiola go and it all fall apart. But at the same time, from a football perspective, I'd really love to just see Ten Hag and Guardiola go toe to toe with two great teams. So yeah, hopefully United will be coming back soon, and we'll be starting to challenge for leagues as well, regardless of who's managing other teams. In a way, guess doesn't really matter in a sense.
Well, Ten Hag will have to be back to make that happen.
100%,
And the
100%.
noises come. I don't want to. This is a conversation for another day. I don't want them dampening my mood. But John Murdo has already made it clear there'll be nothing happening in January, and next summer the level of spending will be decreased. Compared with this summer. So that already is kind of annoyed me. But it's the usual Glazeronomics. So Ten Hag is not working it under the same conditions as Guardiola. Guardiola can buy a
Exactly.
goalkeeper like Bravo and say after one season say he's not good enough, get me an Ederson for £70 million or whatever. That
100%.
doesn't happen at United. He can
100%.
he can replace his whole team in one summer if he wants to. He's got a striker who's on reported 900 grand a week. It's not going to happen to Man United. Like we're there's half the revenue's been taken out of the club by the owners, which is a disgrace. But we've
Couldn't
talked
agree with
about
you
it many
more.
times.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't
I,
agree with you more.
I don't want to. I don't want to go down a path that's going to depress me after winning Goodison tonight, which we don't always do. Yeah, so I'm very pleased with the result, and we want to build on it now and gain some momentum, even though it's going to be difficult, like I say, with the fixture list. It's very challenging. But another thing that we should celebrate now, we can't go without celebrating this. We're 5 points ahead of Liverpool, who are down in 10th position, and they lost the game today. That's definitely something worth celebrating from a United point of view.
Always good to see. It's always good to see. There's not a United fan who doesn't like to see Liverpool lose. Let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, from a pure footballing perspective, it's a bit of a shock, to be honest. I am surprised that Liverpool have fallen so far this season. I really am. I did not think that they would completely capitulate. I really don't know what it's down to. I know Mane left, and they've had some injuries and bad luck. But I mean, it seems like a massive drop off, and that they seem to be badly exposed. Like I said, Trent Alexander-Arnold getting a lot of criticism. We always knew he wasn't a great defender. But like I said earlier, teams are more than the sum of their parts, and other players and the way their tactics were working, it was protecting them, and that's not happening. But yeah, from an Edge fan perspective, Kyle, only too happy to see it. But yeah, but it is a bit of a strange one, I have to say. It's very very odd to see.
Yeah, Trent and Van Dijk look a shadow of the players they used to be. It seems to be a psychological issue. They're every midfielder they have, apart from Fabinho, I think is in their 30s. Some of them well into their 30s. They look tired. Um, Salah is just since he got his new contract, he has been the same player. I even not the I know it's not the Liverpool podcast, but I even said last season when it was basically a very badly kept secret that Mane was going to go to Bayern after Salah got the new contract. I would have, if I was them, I would consider giving Mane the big contract and letting go of Salah because I thought he was playing better last season. He was getting many, many crucial goals for them. So to lose someone who gets so many important goals and then Salah who's just not on it this season, it's a massive loss for them.
Totally. I can see him going. I can see Salah leaving. I really can. People may say that's crazy. He's just signed a new contract, but I wouldn't be surprised. And I mean, there's no loyalty in football, as we know. These days. I mean, what would keep him there? If he's not playing, they're not winning leagues or challenge for leagues and going for Champions Leagues and stuff. I don't see why he would stay, and I wouldn't be surprised if somebody big came in for him, why he wouldn't go. And being that he was running his contract down, by leaving in the middle of a big contract that Liverpool would come out more money for him, he would be doing them a service by getting that big transfer fee. Probably I don't know, I'm not sure what age he is, but probably potentially the last big transfer fee that would be commanded for him in his career. So I won't be shocked if he goes. But like I say, it's not Liverpool podcast at the end of the day, so it doesn't really make any difference to United. But yeah, that's my top and source.
Yeah, a real chance for us to finish above them this season. Although that's not the number one priority. The number one priority is to try and get as close to the top as possible. But I'm sure, like me, you're not getting many text messages from Liverpool fans these days.
Don't hear from them at all. I actually think they've all lost,
Probably.
lost my phone number, Kyle. Or maybe they've all lost their phones. I don't know. I'd never hear from them. Never hear from them.
Yeah,
All quiet. All quiet.
maybe it's just a coincidence that the people who don't contact me anymore are all Liverpool fans. Maybe they've all just got new numbers or something. It's a bit
Your phone
strange.
bill. Your phone bill you must be saving a lot in your phone bill at the same time, Kyle, which is always good in the current financial climate. With the energy crisis and stuff. I'm sure it's probably a good thing for you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm keeping more minutes and more text messages. Not responding to all these Liverpool fans. But yeah, they've just gone completely quiet, and why wouldn't they? I mean, last season we had to listen to all this stuff about them, how they're going to win the quadruple, and they finished with two domestic cups, and I think that's contributed to their form as well. They've just it's flattened them. Losing the Champions League final, losing the league or the final day of the season when it looked for all the world that they were going to win it. Said he scored like 3 goals in 5 minutes to win the league.
I think you're
When
right. And I think the thing as well that you forget, and I did think about it when they lost the Champions League final last season, is that it takes so much out of a player and so much out of a team. Roy Keane talks about it all the time. Winning leagues and Champions League, it's not easy. It's an entire year of sacrifice and hard work. And you're right. And when you keep getting so close to the end, and the only payoff is that trophy and that medal at the end of the season, when you don't get that, it feels like, they talk about second being first loser. It feels like you've put all that work in and you've got nothing. And that's bound to be a little bit deflating. Success definitely breeds success for that reason, because you feel like you get a payoff from your hard work. We're not getting that payoff. It probably is pretty deflating. Yeah, I think you make a good point there. So maybe that has, your brand probably has contributed to why they've dropped off this year.
Yeah, I'm so devastated. So, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Any other United related topics that you wanted to bring up?
I think that's it, Kyle. I mean, we could talk a lot. I think the only other thing of note, but I don't want to deliver the point too much. You say I don't want to completely depress you. It would be some, I guess, of the stuff around the Glazers and some of the protests that have been happening, which I personally think are a good thing. Reminding people that we're having a good season ish, and we're making progress under Ten Hag, but not to forget, just as you mentioned, that at boardroom level things still aren't as good as we would hope for them to be. And I think the fans, in my opinion, need to be united in feeling that until things improve. From a board perspective, that there's still the best thing for the club still needs to be a change of ownership. And until the things improve or that happens, I think that we all need to just get behind each other and say that yeah, we all want the same thing. So how that happens and when that happens, I don't know. But yeah, I think it's just good to still remember those things, as you mentioned. We get too easily blinded by good performances and this, that, and the other, and we all forget about the problems at the root of the club. And it's just good to just keep those things in mind until they improve or things change. So yeah, that's it really.
Yeah, well, there's strong rumors that they're the club's on the market. They're not saying that publicly, but hopefully that is the case because the the commercial revenue is drying up. If we're not in the Champions League this season, the likes of the Adidas money will be cut by like 30% or something. The Ronaldo gimmick hasn't paid off. Where commercial revenue hasn't gone up as a result of having Ronaldo.
Mm.
So they're running out of options. They're running out of ideas. So they're now talking about having a very limited budget next summer for the team. So and the money that's required on the infrastructure is massive, and they're simply not going to pay it. But so hopefully they're looking for a way out now, and that would be brilliant for all parties.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, I think it would be definitely. Yeah, again, they're only rumors. I don't know what's going on. It's been all quiet. On that front, you don't hear as much about it. We always hear much more about it when things are going really badly, and the media gets on board with what the fans are saying, and fans get more vocal and all these things, and we get chat about Jim Radcliffe and stuff like that, and what's going to happen and stuff like that. But yeah, when times are good, it easily gets forgotten. But you're right, Kyle. There's still things going on in the background, obviously, and fingers crossed that maybe we will end up with a change of ownership. I think most people would agree, most fans would agree that's probably a good thing. And I think it'd come to a point maybe where the Glazers agree as well. But we'll see what happens. Like I say, it doesn't really matter to me who the name is on the owner's door, as long as they're doing the right things by the club. But that hasn't been the case for a long time. So yeah, we'll see how things go.
Another option that they've got left, uh, I think, apart from selling the club, would be to do what Barcelona have done. Basically, sell off future profits. Future commercial revenue. Sell the naming rights to the stadium and stuff. That's basically all they've got left. To try and raise some funds, but it seems like it's coming to an end, and hopefully it is. And there'll be no shortage of suitors. You look at the auction for Chelsea whenever the Chelsea went up for sale. It was massive. You just imagine the amount of people that'll be interested. Rich people will be interested in buying Manchester United, and we know who one of them is. Jim Radcliffe, the richest man in Britain. But there'll be many more. There'll be American entrepreneurs. There'll be people from the Middle East who want to get their hands on Man United because it's obviously a very prestigious asset to own for any rich person. So there's going to be no shortage of people who will be bidding for United if it is up for sale.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
All we want is responsible owners. Well, we don't need a sugar daddy. We just need the club's revenue to be used on the team. That's all we ask. Not having half of it taken out and spent on dividends and debt and interest on the debt. We just want the money that the club generates to be put back into the club. It's not that hard. I'm not asking for the earth here.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, you're 100%. That's exactly what I think too. Yeah, we're not, we're not wanting somebody to come in and and take the club and change it around and make it this completely different thing. Like you said, Manchester United are a global brand, extremely prestigious, millions and millions of fans all around the world. They make a lot of money, and all we want is you say the club that not be used to service debt or to for dividends for investors. We just want that to be put back into the club and the club to be successful. Yeah, nothing wrong with investors making money as well. That's fine. But not at the detriment of other things like the stadium falling to pieces and holes in the roof and the training ground being out of date and stuff like that. And yeah, we just want to see the club being run the right way. That's all United fans ever want.
Yeah, it's a real pity that the likes of Gary Neville and Roy Keane and David Beckham and so on, Paul Scholes, don't have that kind of money. They're millionaires, they're not billionaires, so they can't really afford to buy the club. But someone like Gary Neville buying the club would be the ideal scenario. But I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
He
totally
doesn't have
agree with
that
you.
kind of cash.
No, totally agree. That's exactly an ideal where what we would have. 100%. Yeah, a rich and owner like Gary Neville who has the club absolutely through and through at their heart. But yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's not really realistic. But yeah,
Although he goes through managers like confetti at Salford City, so I'm not sure. He might be a bit trigger happy there at the club that he
Uh,
runs. Because he talks on Sky Sports about giving managers time, and that's the complete opposite to what he does at Salford. And he's even
yeah,
admitted that he made a mistake in sacking a manager at Salford when they were like in the playoff spots, I think. When he got it, and then a year later he made it that it was an error on his part that he jumped the gun too early. So yeah, as a former player, he loves the club. It'd be brilliant to have him there as an owner, even though it's never going to happen. But then again, he could be someone who pushes the panic button too early as well.
yeah,
What he's done in Salford.
yeah. Or
Um,
plenty of owners like that. I'm sure, not just him. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Jim Radcliffe sounds good. He's from Oldham, and I think he's a Boyhood United fan, and he's mega rich, so that would be an ideal scenario. And for him to come in and spend money on the stadium, on the training ground, we need to modernise. Because the Glazers have neglected the infrastructure for so long, and they're not going to pay for it. For that to happen, the club needs to be sold. So yeah, things are looking okay on the pitch, and if the ownership changed, that would be fantastic as well, and it would give us the opportunity to compete with City a bit more if we had more
Yep,
responsible owners.
absolutely.
Um, so yeah, wrap it up there. If everyone can please subscribe to the podcast, give us a like in the video if you're watching on YouTube, and comment your thoughts down below. And I'll see you again then, Chris.
Yeah, Kyle. Thank you very much. Great to be on as always, mate. I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Okay, see you later.
Take care.